Okay. Drop that there too. So, next things to plan, I think. Pop the tractor. So, we need... What do we need? Oof. So we can go silage. Could get really cheap with one of those. Now tractor is just sufficient to run one, but that involves planting corn, and I don't have a planter for corn, and I don't plan to have one anytime soon. Anyway, all this. Prices of commodities. We have wheat, we have barley, we have oats. Canola. So a lot of these seem to be good to sell this time of year, which will be right after the harvest. Sunflowers not so much. Sunflowers you want to sell now. I think we already did. Soybeans we want to sell in summer. Corn we don't, well, corn, yes, we want to sell in summer. We won't have cotton, sugarcane, eggs, wool. So, where is animals? It looks like it's a bad time of year to buy sheep. You want to buy the sheep at the beginning of fall. These are piggies. Piggies you want to buy just before winter. And oh, those are chickens. Chickens, bad time to buy here. So, however, the other thing to note is these prices are already normalizing. This is what the value of the crop was on these 3 months or these 3 days. This is the projected value of the crops, and these will reflect last year's prices when we move into each day. So the price of that could come down a little. So on some of these graphs I've seen them sort of, they'll be up here and you know the actual prices are down here, and then as the time moves on these prices drop down to what they actually were. On Lawfolds, because it has an inflated economy, all of the prices were sort of down here, and over the course of the first year they all jumped up to where they are today. Anyway, it doesn't look like this is a good time of year to buy, well, this is barely a good time of year to buy chickens. It's a really bad time tomorrow, and progressively worse until we come back to the fall. Anyway, we will check on the animal prices as the year goes by. What is that? Oh, silage. So yeah, silage was good to sell here, has really dropped in value here, and it thinks it's always up here. But these will come down, I expect. Slurry manure has no value. Interesting. Okay, so that's enough of the economy. Okay, and what's that one? That's just those. Okay, so how's the weather work? We are looking at Friday. Today is Wednesday. Thursday. Friday rain. Tomorrow's sunny all day. I don't know. So what stuff we could do cultivating? That's not a very productive cultivating job. That pays well. Field 16. It's probably one of these over here. Big field. I do want to buy myself a cultivator. It's going to pay me 2,000. How much is a cultivator? So 100 horsepower, 120, 130, 220, yeah, not going to work. 300, definitely not going to work. 400, 500, way too heavy. 85, 3 meter. Has potential. What's this one? 80. It's dirt cheap. 100 for 3 meter. 300, 6 meter. 150. We could do that one. That one's 5.5. 130, 3 meter. 110, 4 meter. 150, 7.8. That's big. So many choices. 6 meter for 140 horsepower. It's only 13,000. One back here. So that one, 150 horse for 5.5. That's 28,000. So this one here looks to be quite a good buy. And we are definitely going to need one for when we want to plough in the oilseed radish. So let's do that. And then we'll offset the cost by doing that. Hey, God of Thunder, how you doing? I guess for now I'm not particularly worried about that grass if I'm not going to be buying sheep till the end of the year. Well, I'm not going to be buying sheep till the end of the year, but the grass isn't going to grow until the end of the year either. So we could just wait See how many cuts of grass we can get off. I'll use a single mower, probably a loading wagon. And at least for the first cut I'll unload it as grass into the silo and see if we suffer any undue consequences, because I'm currently betting that if you put grass into a silo it won't get damaged, it won't rot under normal Seasons rules, because I don't think Seasons will be able to see it. And then we'll take the second cut as hay and see how that goes. So here we are with our nice big cultivator. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to stick it in reverse. We missed that, but close enough. Let's try that again. Okay. May put another weight on the front of that. Can run through the door. Okay. So customize. Go with a 1500. Looks like it's going to cost me an extra 200 there. And that one isn't. So we are actually buying. That's the next one up. Once you've bought the weights, you don't have to pay to add or remove them. So that should give me a little bit better balance. And turn the engine on and let's get moving. Ooh, careful. So field 16, that's up the back somewhere. This is going to be somewhere I've not been that frequently. Hello. Oh, yes. Okay. To the bridge. Behind 17 by the looks of it. So let's see where 17 is. I think here. Sorry, car. Oh yeah. Left turn takes you to the railroad tracks. Not quite. And this is all the new back roads. doing okay. A little bit of an upheaval because the girls will be leaving us sometime in the next month, and so they're having visitations with their prospective adoptive parents now. Interesting. Oh, that's the BGA. Okay, is this 16 in front of us? Yes, it is. So, unfold. Lower. Now this job is probably going to take me a while. Hey Taylor, how you doing? Long time no see. A little bit early to say. At the moment we are on day 3. Obviously I'm a big fan of seasons from 17. Having put over 500 hours on law folds with seasons. So, you know, part of the deal with seasons is it does structure your gameplay a little bit more. I kind of like that. I'm not in any big rush to get any jobs done, unless it's wasting me money. So, obviously, on this particular map, every field is in a very bad state of repair. It needs ploughed, it needed lime, it has been fallow for 2 years, potentially more. So we're basically looking at a farm that has fallen into disuse. And so day 1 and 2 was ploughing the fields. And so I got a proper plough rather than the subsoiler that I usually use, and went from there. And obviously a proper plough is, at least for tractor power, not as wide as a subsoiler. So it took a lot longer to do. And because I leased it, because I don't plan to be planting any corn or root crops anytime soon, I'm running against the clock at that point. You know, I want to get rid of the plough as soon as possible because it's costing me to lease it every hour and every day. But we got all of the ploughing done in 2 days. Now we're facing the problem of, okay, we've got to wait until the ground's warm enough to plant anything, and we have drought conditions in the fields, so I can't reliably plant anything without potentially losing some of the seed that I plant. So we planted grass because that is more resistant to drought than most of the other crops, just to see how that comes out. We also planted a field of oilseed radish, which we'll be ploughing in and putting soybeans in probably early summer. I have not had frozen ground yet, so the ground... Or did I? Need to go back and watch episode 1 on YouTube for that, but I don't think the ground was frozen, so we were able to plough it okay. I know if you play through a year, potentially you can get, because it's based on the sort of south of England geo, you can potentially end up with snow on the ground for the first 2 or 3 days of spring, and that can put all sorts of problems on you. However, day 1 of winter does not kill your crops. So even if you don't get all of the harvesting done by the end of the fall, it may not be that much of a disaster if you can get the crops in early winter. However, I think you're risking it. And seasons does bring an element of risk to what you're doing. If you plant when the ground's too dry or when the temperatures are too low, you won't get a reliable coverage of crop on a field. Now that one thing I did here was there is a problem with the snow plow. If you plow the snow with the snow plow, the snow that you plow will not melt. So you kind of want to be watching that one. They know about it, it is a bug, they will be fixing it. But for now, plowed snow will stay. As far as Laura Fold was concerned, I very rarely did any snow moving, because the only thing I really wanted to do over winter was feed the animals, and that was it. Now that's the other thing, is you have to feed your animals, I believe it's every other day, every 2 days, but they recommend you feed them every day, because obviously they give you 2 days so that you can feed them in the morning today, and you don't have to feed them exactly 24 hours later. You've got a little bit of a leeway. Try and avoid the tree. Yes, indeed. This job isn't going too badly. I think the bits I'm missing, but that doesn't matter, it's a contract, so so long as we get about 95% of it done, we're okay. Oh, that's a little bit fatal. Now I have heard that you can preemptive herbicide, spray herbicide. So even if there aren't any weeds on the fields, if you go around with a herbicide sprayer, that will prevent you having weed problems for the year. I may look into doing that. I'm definitely planning on my my primary fertilization at this point being spray. Again, to get the fields limed, I rented a spreader, limed the fields and returned it. So we've rented a plough, we've rented a spreader. They're both now returned, because I don't foresee needing them for at least the plough for the long-term future, unless I get into corn. I'm not going to need to plough. And the spreader for 3 years. I'm not going to need to lime any fields. Until year 4. At least for fields 1 through 7. think if you go back to Farm Sim 17, just the week before Farm Sim 19 came out, I've got a couple of YouTube videos. One is the Old Stream Farm, how I start a farm, and the second one was Old Stream Farm, how I start a farm with seasons. And with seasons I basically sell everything and buy what I need when I need it. Lease a lot, so my plan for this year is probably to lease a harvester. I'm not going to buy one this year because I'm not going to have enough money and I don't have enough crops to buy one. And since you only need a harvester for sort of a couple of hours, there's no point in holding on to it for an entire year when you need it for a couple of hours in the fall. Okay, the cultivator doesn't create mounds of snow, it just eliminates them. So that's interesting to know. I did enjoy that in 17. Oh look, I can cultivate snow and it disappears. But the first time I tried it, I couldn't cultivate a field of snow because the field was, or the ground was frozen, and I couldn't work the ground with the cultivator, so I could end up with all the grassland around a field could be snow free, but everything in the field would just be covered in snow. There's planters and seeders. I haven't come across those. Are they mods? Alright, since there's three layers of fertilization, and my seeder doesn't fertilize, I am going to need to run out into the fields 3 times after I've planted in order to fertilize them all. And I will be buying the sprayer because obviously it's a multiple use piece of equipment. I bought the seeder too because obviously I'm going to be generally planting oilseed radish in the fall and then planting the cash crop either just prior to winter or early spring, unless it's soybeans, in which case late spring, early summer. The herbicide counts as a level. Okay, we'll try that. I'm willing to try everything. Yeah, in Lawfolds because of the animals, and I was selling silage hand over fist at the BGA. I would plant oilseed radish and cultivate that in with a slurry tank attached, so that what I was ending up with was oilseed radish plus 1 level of fertilization. Slurry or digestate from the BGA, cultivated in with the oilseed radish, gives me 2 levels of fertilization before the cash crop even hits the field. Now if I'm planting a corn or possibly soybeans, I would use my planter, which gives me my third level of fertilization. If I'm planting any of the cereal crops, then I'm not getting that third level with the planter, with the seeder I'm using. I have been looking around at potentially changing the seeder. The problem is because I plant oilseed radish, I kind of don't want to plant oilseed radish with fertilizer, because that's kind of an expensive way to do it. But it would mean that there's 3 layers of fertilization. I wouldn't need to use the digestate, or I could, it's a sort of, but I have the digestate, I have an awful lot of manure and slurry as well. So I kind of don't want to overly use solid fertilizer. Lift around the tree and try not to hit it.